I remember the day I first met Kevin as clearly as I recall the moment I left him. Back then, I was a naive 20-year-old, searching for validation in a world that felt too big. He was charming at first, courteous, attentive, always quick to defend me if anyone stepped out of line. It took me 7 years to realize that his protective instincts were nothing but a facade, masking a toxic possessiveness that nearly broke me. I decided to leave him on a cold autumn evening. I felt suffocated by his jealousy. He would demand to know my every move, where I was, who I was with, and why I hadn't answered his call within seconds. When the final argument came, it happened in my tiny apartment, among scattered boxes, as I was prepared to move out. He stood by the door, clenching his fist so hard his knuckles went white. "You think you can run from me, Nast?" He spat out. "You gave me everything. You gave me nothing but fear," I replied, grabbing the last of my things. My voice wavered, but I had to stand my ground. "I'm done with this." From that point on, I tried to distance myself. I applied for a job as a cashier at a nearby beauty salon, hoping for a fresh start. The salon was bright and modern, with glittering floor-to-ceiling mirrors and colorful displays of luxury products. It provided a strange comfort, an escape from the dark memories Kevin's presence had woven into my life. My new boss, Brandon, was the polar opposite of Kevin. He managed the salon with professionalism and kindness, always addressing me and the other staff with respect. He had a warm smile that revealed a gentle sincerity, and he never pried into my personal life. Over time, we grew closer. I found myself drawn to him, not just because he was handsome, but because he treated me like I mattered. One evening, we stayed late to tally the day's earnings, which was when I first opened up. "Brandon," I said softly, setting down my pen, "I haven't been honest about my past." He looked up from the receipts, concern in his eyes. "You don't have to tell me anything if you don't want to." "No, I want to," I said, steeling myself. I was in a relationship for 7 years with someone who, well, was extremely controlling. It ended badly, and now I'm always looking over my shoulder. Brandon didn't judge. Instead, he reached out and squeezed my hand gently. "You're safe here, Nast. I promise you that." It wasn't long after our relationship started that Kevin began lurking around the salon. I glance up from the register and see a figure in the distance, hidden behind tinted car windows or standing behind a corner traffic light. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, conjured by the lingering fear of our past. But then, I started getting text messages from an unknown number. One read, "I see you." Another read, "Don't get too comfortable with your new manager." Worse than the messages, though, was the knowledge that Kevin knew I had a deep-seated phobia of masks. Brandon noticed my anxiety growing. One day, he confronted me in his office. "Nast, you're jumping at every sound. Did something happen again?" I hesitated before answering. "I got another text this morning, and I saw someone standing outside the salon last night, wearing some sort of face covering." Brandon's expression hardened. "That's it. I'm installing a panic button under the cashier counter. If anything happens, you'll be able to press it." Those words gave me a little bit of comfort, but not enough to quell the nightmares. About a week later, it all came to a head. It was a Friday, usually the busiest day at the salon. Women and men came in, prepping for weekends full of parties and romantic dates. I stood at the cashier desk, scanning products and chatting warmly with the clients, hoping to mask my own apprehension. Brandon worked in his office in the back, discussing supply deliveries with a vendor over the phone. Suddenly, I heard footsteps outside that sounded heavier than normal. When I glanced at the front door, I saw him. Kevin. He was there, wearing the most horrendous wolf mask imaginable. My heart felt as though it stopped. He pushed the door open. Immediately, all conversation in the salon had died. His ragged breathing echoed behind the mask as he scanned the room, looking for Brandon. All I could do was stand there, blood hammering in my ears. Every fiber of my being told me to scream, to run, but I was paralyzed. Kevin. I managed to gasp, my knees threatening to buckle. He tilted his head, mocking me with a distorted wolf grin. Then he moved towards the counter with deliberate steps. I remembered what Brandon said about the button. I reached under the counter and slammed my hand against the panic button. Kevin's voice, muffled by the mask, was chilling. "Where is your manager?" he asked. "Where's that new boyfriend of yours?" I could see the other customer shrinking back, fear evident in their eyes. Part of me wanted to shout for them to run, but the words wouldn't come out. I tried to hold Kevin's gaze, though it was nearly impossible with the horrifying mask. At that moment, Brandon appeared from the back hallway. He stepped between Kevin and me, fists clenched at his sides. "Leave, Kevin," he said firmly. "You have no business here." Kevin snarled. "You think you could just take her from me? You don't know what you're getting into." Brandon wasn't intimidated. "She chose to leave you. You lost her when you tried to control her." What happened next was like a rush of chaotic images. Kevin lunged forward, knocking over a display of lotions and shouting. But just as he raised his arm, we all heard a wail of sirens blaring in the distance. The security button had done its job. Help was seconds away. Kevin froze, realizing his plan to attack Brandon and drag me away had been thwarted. In a final act of desperation, he spun around and ripped the cash register from the drawer. He stuffed the loose bills into his jacket and ran away. I took a shaky step backwards, feeling the adrenaline surge through me. Customers looked on in shock, and Brandon reached for me, pulling me into a protective embrace. When the police arrived, I could hardly speak. My breath became ragged gasps, and I clung to Brandon like a lifeline. We explained what had happened the best we could, how Kevin showed up in disguise, how he threatened us, how he stole from the salon's cash register. The officers dispersed quickly, and their radios crackling with orders to pursue him. In April 2015, a masked robber struck a New York beauty salon in Spring Valley, wearing a wolf's mask. The suspect entered Kelly's unisex salon at 4 p.m., brandishing a knife and demanding cash. The frightened employee, a 31-year-old woman, placed the money into a backpack he provided before he fled the scene. She was unharmed and quickly called 911. Authorities released surveillance footage to aid in identifying the suspect, described as 5'4" to 5'7" with a medium build. The police continued their search, urging the public for any leads.